Hi everyone, Mimi here, and I have Miss Natasha with me, who I could tell already. We click.
That's
Hi,
right.
you want to say hello to everyone?
Hi, everyone. We do click.
Yeah, we knew it right away.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because we do a little pre thing before the actual recording. So now the C in front of your name, do we use that when we're talking, or is that just for your books?
That's just my writing.
All
Yeah,
right,
that's
that's
just
what I
my
thought.
pen name. Right.
Yes, see NaTasha Richburg, but we'll just call you Natasha.
Very good. Thank you so much.
And girl, you wrote 12 books.
Yes, yes,
You know,
yes.
I wrote four, and
Uh-huh.
my friends are like, "Wow, 12, that's really something." And I know your daughter helped you write some of them. She didn't help you write all of them, though, did she?
No, the two about IVF, we have a writing thing. She gets her journal, she writes a topic. I embellish the topic and bring life to it. And then she goes at, Mommy, that's too much. Or that was perfect. Most of the time it's too much.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah,
I believe in telling a hard story soft, and her story was pretty hard. So I
yeah,
want people to read it and feel encouraged, not sad.
exactly. That's interesting. How old's your daughter? How old is she?
She's turning 39. And
Okay.
she tried for 4,718 days to get pregnant.
Oh, so the IVF journey, that story. What's the name?
Yeah. The abandoned guilt and stored gladness. And she tried that long. And the day she got her first positive pregnancy test, her husband said, I don't want you or the baby. Girl.
What?
And that's why we wrote the book. We are
This
not
is,
sitting in sadness.
this is life. This is life. Because my book is very hard to read in the beginning. The first half
Okay.
of my life is like people that know me that didn't know me then, because I moved to Florida.
Okay.
I retired and I wrote the book after I retired. So I made all these friends in Florida. So 5 years ago, when the book came out and they read it, they were like, I had to put it down because I know you. And I was crying. It was very tough for them to read this. They didn't know that woman, you know. But men can be, I'm going to say it, assholes. I mean, I, I had two of them. My first two husbands were horrible. I mean,
Really?
oh, honey, when you read the book, you'll say, why did I almost did kill one of them? Uh, they, he seriously, one tried to kill me, but no. But it took me till I was 40 to find a good man. And
Okay.
I wish I wasn't programmed as a young woman to think I needed one.
Right.
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 So
Right.
how long was she married to this man?
She was married once to a
Uh-huh.
husband who was not faithful. So after
Oh,
10 years and not being able to get pregnant, she was like, you go on and live your life. And she wasn't angry at him, but she just had enough. And then she married a second one
mhm.
and she continued on her journey. And I said, he was your teacher because if you never met him,
The
he
second
wouldn't have
one.
told the second one. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
He would
Mhm.
have never said, go get it checked out. Because the first one, they were in the military and she had gotten her infertility checked out with many doctors, but not till the second one when she went to Johns Hopkins. And
Yeah.
I went to the doctors with her. He said, oh, I figured out what was wrong. Her tubes were leaking. I took them
Oh,
out. Once it clears up, she'll get pregnant. And she did. Once
wow.
they cleared, yeah, I mean, she had to do IVF.
Yeah.
But I said, all those doctors, and it took one doctor to figure out the problem. And then when she finally got pregnant, he said, I don't want you or the baby.
Mm,
And
mm.
she's been married twice. And part of that I blame with my children not being successful because I've been married going on 43 years to the same person. I
Mhm.
really didn't share with them the secrets.
Yeah.
And that's why I wrote my book.
Yeah.
More to share the secrets because people
Yeah.
kept saying, what's the secret of your marriage? I'm like, let me just write
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, because it's very unusual. I mean, I my first two, I was with them 7 years apiece. Now,
Okay.
the first husband, I thought I was Liz Taylor, so I married him twice. Liz
Yeah,
Taylor,
I know
Richard
her.
Burton
Married
twice.
her. Richard Burton,
And,
all those times.
and Natalie Wood did the
Oh,
same
yeah,
thing
she sure
too.
did.
And she might have got killed because of it. But anyway, the,
Mm-hmm.
the one I married twice, the 7 years has to be added together between
Okay.
the marriages. So my husband currently, we're together since 1987, right? So that's
Right.
almost 40 years.
Wow.
And when we were together 7 years, he said to me, "Are you going to keep me?"
Ah,
Because he knew I had a 7-year rule going. But
that's
but
good.
they were cheaters and alcoholics and just bad, just damaged men, toxic
Right.
masculinity, the whole bit. So when I wrote my book too, it was like kind of to tell young women,
Yeah.
to be careful because there's a lot of dangerous men out there, and you might think they're wonderful, but they're not.
Right.
Well, they get you in their clutches, as they say.
Right. Right. Right.
I
Right.
went through it. I went through it, girl. Let me tell you. But that's my story. Well, so now your story. What motivated you to open up about your personal journey and your marriage on this very public platform?
Because people kept asking me, what's the secret?
Yeah.
So that's what the title is. People ask, what is the secret of your 36-year marriage? At that point, we had been married 36 years, and now we're going on 43 years. And in chapter 14, I have a list of what seems innocent questions. If you get through them all right, then you know you might be on the same page. But if you don't get through them all right,
you're in
and
trouble.
that's the power of no. And in
Yeah.
life, I've learned the power of no.
That is very important, whether it's in a marriage or any relationship.
Yes.
And I have been working on that power of no for decades, and I just have my soft spots, like with grandchildren mainly. And I have one that is somebody I should have said no to a million times, But I'm working on it. I'm working on boundaries and all that stuff. But what lesson stands out from some of the tough challenges that you faced? Is there one lesson that really stands out?
Well, one of the things that really stands out for me, if I were not raised, my mother loved me, but she didn't like me. So it taught me how to tolerate and to sustain, even though it's not warm and fuzzy or supportive. Wow. When a lot of people who were supported, like my children, they so spoiled. Like my children, when anything goes wrong, they just, I look for the silver lining.
Yeah. You had to be resilient.
Yes.
And you had to depend on yourself. And
right.
I had the same situation. My mother did not like me.
She
did not like me. And she's passive aggressive. Like she did it in ways that other people wouldn't notice.
Right. Same way. Same thing.
And when she died, and I was the oldest, and I took care of her in her towards her death when she was living alone and needed to be in a nursing home. Like I took care of all that, but she hated me for that because I put her in a nursing home. But they found her unconscious on the floor. Like, she couldn't be alone anymore. And I gave her this book, a little book, meant for a mother to write things to her daughter after she was gone.
Okay.
And she wasn't doing it. Now, I live in Florida and she was in PA, Pennsylvania. So I had to make trips up there. And I made a trip up there and I picked up the book and I said, Mom, you didn't write much in the book. I'm going to help you. I'm going to sit here and help you. And I would ask her a question. And it's like pulling teeth. So now after she dies, I pack up her stuff and take care of everything. I was the power of attorney, of course, and all that stuff. And I take that little book home with me. And there was a question in there. How did you feel when you found out you're pregnant with me? And she wrote in a book that she knew I was going to read, right? Because I'm the one that gave it to her. Well, we didn't have a lot of money, so I kept jumping off the steps and taking mustard baths. In other words, she was trying to abort me.
Mm-hmm.
But she wanted me to know after her death that she did. Like, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool and narcissistic.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't all have loving and fuzzy mothers.
No, I just think that's what kind of gave me the fight. And nobody knew what I was going through. Even though I told my husband Melvin about it, he knew it, but he didn't know. And at the point that she got dementia, one time she started coming after me, and she didn't know he was there. And she didn't know he heard her.
Okay.
And he apologized. I said, I told you it was awful. He apologized because I just ignored it and did what I had to do as a daughter.
Yeah, and he couldn't believe it because he didn't see it himself.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean, like with the passive aggressive stuff. You know, it's like my sister-in-law, and she told me years later, she didn't tell me while my mother was alive, but afterward she told me, like, oh yeah, she used to say things like, you made potato salad one time for a gathering, and she said to me, well, it's not going to be that good. It's not going to be good as mine.
Yeah, she did. She did.
Yeah. But anyway, so away from mothers for a minute. Just talk about mothers for now.
But that's what gave me my
Yeah, I understand that. I
know you get that. I
get that. So now, what are the, like, when you're in a relationship with a man or a woman, whatever your choice is, what are the core ingredients of a relationship that make that relationship last?
I got it.
I can't wait to hear it.
Number one.
Okay.
The value system. You come in with two different value systems, and some kind of way it's got to become a braid. It can't be a pretzel, because it's a pretzel, it's just the two. It's got to turn into a third that becomes your own. Yeah. A value system has to be shared, even on things you agree to disagree. That value system has to come together. And if that doesn't ever come together, it's never going to work. That's that's the first thing, the shared value system. Yeah. And the second thing you have to have in the shared value, once your value system shares, no matter what, and I can speak from my perspective, no matter what Melvin did that either hurt me or made me sad, my first question is, did he mean to? And if the answer is no, that wasn't his intent, and we had those same values, we still cooked him with gas. Yeah. Because if he didn't mean to do it, like for instance, if he went bowling and I thought he was going to come home at 10 and he didn't come home to 1 a.m. and it hurt my feelings. Mm-hmm. He just got blown away with the time, was hanging out, and it wasn't on purpose. Then the third thing is, does he try to fix it?
Yes. Yes.
And we still cooking with gas.
Yeah. If he says, honey, I'm sorry. Right.
And as part of our value system, what Melvin taught me, he always kissing me all the time. I'm going to clean the garage. I'm going to get the mail. I'm going to paint the deck. I'm going to the store. He always kissing me. Yes. So no matter how mad, in my growing up, I wasn't used to that. So I always tell people, if I'm mad at him, I make my lips real tight. But I still do it. And if I'm not mad, I make them juicy.
So he knows. Send him a signal. I know about that. Yeah.
But still, the value system we have to touch.
Oh yeah.
We never do the silent treatment, and we always touch.
And people, when we got together, people were like, "Oh, they're never going to make it. They're never going to make it." Well, we made it. But one of the things we had to change was we were drinkers.
Oh.
And my father was an alcoholic. And at first, I wasn't an alcoholic. I was just social and I was good. But I married an alcoholic, that first husband.
Oh, okay.
And he taught me how to drink. And I mean that in that he liked to go in the bar and have a drink. And I would sit there and have one drink and I'd have it all night. And he'd make fun of me. You know, I'd have 1, 7, and 7. So
Mm-hmm.
that first time we were married, he didn't change me as far as that. But the second time, I started using that alcohol as medication.
Mm.
Okay. So, like to numb my feelings or whatever. And I became alcoholic. And my husband didn't think he was an alcoholic because he was a teacher and he worked and, you know, but we bought a bar.
You bought a bar? Oh my goodness.
Now, I had owned a bar before and I knew the business, but we bought a bar and he was in seventh heaven. But it increased my alcoholism to the point where I hit a bottom spiritually, emotionally, and physically. And I got help and I got sober. I'm sober since 1991.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
good.
thank you. But when I got sober, he said to me, "Oh, honey, I'm going to stop drinking for you. Just for you, I'm going to stop drinking." Still not thinking he had a problem. Just talking about values. And I said, "Well, you got to do more than stop drinking. You got to sell the bar." He was like, "I don't want to sell the bar." I said, "Well, you can't drink. And you're going to be in a bar and not drink it. Let's see how that goes." So I let him play with that. And he found out it wasn't fun anymore. And he sold the bar. And it took him, even though he didn't drink, it took him a couple years to admit that he was an alcoholic.
Okay.
He used to say, I'm not an alcoholic. I'm here for Marie at a meeting. So I got so upset one time. I told my sponsor, I'm going to kill him. She said, "No, you have to start going to your own meetings. Don't let him go to a meeting with you."
Right.
So I start going to women's meetings.
That's good.
But we had to resolve that, NaTasha.
Yes.
That was bad for our marriage. It would cause resentment on my part.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking, "Oh, you're better than me. You don't think you're an alcoholic, but you are."
Uh-huh.
You know? So now he's got as much time as I have.
See,
Yeah.
that's good. And then that same value system. Like, for instance, some people will get married and one person, all the relatives can come anytime they want. And the other person's like, no, only when they're invited. And they only can stay some. So if you don't get that, that could break up a marriage.
Yes, yes. I'm going through that. Well, I just went through it. I think I resolved it. My husband has Parkinson's and he's in stage 4.
Okay.
And I get a phone call a few months back from his family, big Irish family.
Okay.
You know, 7 of them, siblings. And they're all together calling me this, open call. And they said, "Oh, we're all coming down and we're going to have this like reunion type thing with our brother and everything." And I went, "Absolutely not." You can feel the shock, even though you're on the phone. And they went, "What do you mean?" And I said, "He can't have more than 2 people around him at a time. It's too much for him.
Mm-hmm.
He can't make conversation like he used to with the Parkinson's." So they were mad at me, but I said no, and I set a boundary. And then a few weeks later, a brother and sister came down and they took him to a hotel so I could go away for a couple of days.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you have to do that. You have to set boundaries.
You have to set boundaries, and you have to work to your value system is not a pretzel, but a braid.
Yeah, it's a braid. And he agreed with me. I said, "Do you want like 6 people coming all at once?" He said, no, he couldn't handle it.
Right.
Because he wouldn't be able to be in the conversation. Like everybody would be talking. And at the stage he's at, by the time he formulates what he wants to say and gets it down to his mouth, they're on to the next subject.
Right. I get it.
Yeah, that's no fun.
That's no fun at all. No.
So you had to tell your relative, your in-laws, your rules.
That's right. That's
And
right.
I'm sure they didn't like it, some of them.
It is what it is because you're a team.
You're a team.
Mm-hmm. You gotta have teamwork.
Yeah. So what was like maybe an unexpected experience while creating? You have a book, I think, called A Conversation with the Richburgs. Is that the name
Oh
of
yeah,
it?
we have a talk show, a
Oh, it's
podcast.
a talk. Oh,
Uh-huh.
okay. Wow.
And one of the things we have, the reason we said conversation with the Richburgs, what we've learned, first of all, when we come together, we funny as I don't know what. So that's one thing. And
So
we're really we
he's on.
funny. We are funny.
So
And
your husband's on the podcast with you.
well, this one we're doing recently is my daughter and I.
Okay.
And then I'm getting ready to do one because she lives in Virginia with my husband and my
Oh,
son.
okay.
And I want to do male stuff to talk about male behavior and male things and give them male.
There'll be three of you on that podcast.
Yes, it'll be three the next time. So the first time it was two, and the next time it's going to be three of us. And
Okay.
and we're really open as a family. And people aren't used to people being that frank, that
No.
not that forward. And I don't know how not to be forward.
Oh, me too. Absolutely. Like I don't go anywhere I go, like physical therapy or whatever, like everybody knows me. The other patients, the therapists. I mean, I come in every week with a story or a joke or a picture to show them.
Yeah.
Or tell them about my latest book or my podcast. So this podcast, which is Conversation with the Richburgs, is with your daughter. And what do you talk about on that one?
One of the things we talk about is marriage, because my daughter has been married 2 times unsuccessfully and is actively dating, and she's gone through different types of guys. And so now I really kind of have an understanding of today's guys versus when I did. My sons haven't been successful in marriage. Nobody's been successful. And one of the things we talk about in the podcast, it never occurred to me to teach you all how to be married. So now that they're older, I am teaching them. But I didn't know when they lived with us, Melvin and I were very careful not to argue in front of the kids. So they didn't even know that was something that was intentional. They didn't know Melvin and I had a strategy that behind closed doors, we would decide how we were going to do a subject. And when they came out, he was the good cop, I was the bad cop. And because I played bad cop, they really thought I was the bad cop. That was an intelligent decision on our behalf because I know how to hold the boundaries tighter to him.
Yeah.
And another thing that we did behind the closed doors, we always decided when it came to school, he went with the boys because I didn't want teachers always looking at me like he was invisible. I would write my little notes on what he should say and everything. And I would go for the girls.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it all worked out there. Good.
Yeah. And then before we had our first one, we waited 4 years. Before we had our first one, he went to night shift. And so after 6 weeks of doctor's visits, he would take them all to the doctors. After the first 6 weeks, I did it, and he took them all 4. He did the doctor's visits. He did the outside field trips. I did the warm field trips inside.
Well, you had a cooperative partner, so you had a marriage that was team based.
Yes.
And, like in contrast to my marriage to my second husband, who I had children with, where I was on my own. When he was with me and when I got rid of him, it was just all me. Financially, really? Oh, it was terrible. He brought no money into the house. He was a gambler.
Oh, my goodness.
He considered himself a professional gambler, which was a joke. It was a joke. I had to go on welfare and get food stamps. And he was never home. And one day I had someone knock on the door and say, "I'm here for your TV." I said, "You're here for my TV." "Oh, well, he said that he lost in the game and he said you could have my TV." And I went, "No, it's my TV. Get out of here." And I slammed the door in his face. But I mean I told them you're gonna have people coming to my house, to my door with my children here to get stuff that you lost in a poker game. I don't think so.
No.
Yeah. But I had enough of him. It didn't take too long. Yeah, it didn't take and but he wouldn't leave me alone. He stalked me for a couple of years.
Well, I guess so, because you were his benefactor.
Yeah.
I
And
wouldn't
then
let you go either.
no, I always say that, I always threw them out. They never threw me out.
Right.
I was a keeper,
Right.
but
right.
I was not picking keepers. I was picking losers. So let me ask you, have you ever given dating advice, relationship advice to your children?
Oh, yes. One of the difference between them and me, when I was young, I just would date somebody for 3 months, maybe 6 months, and I would end it. Not because anything was wrong. I could tell I must have been planning for my adult life.
It wasn't going anywhere.
And then if the guy decided he wanted to see somebody else, I don't want you more than you don't want me. So if you don't want me, I don't want you more. I never, because of my mother, I know how it feels not to be wanted.
Yeah.
I never begged for anybody to act right. You don't want to act right? Peace. I'm out.
Yeah.
I don't do that. And that's what I teach them. If somebody don't act right, you're out.
Unfortunately, though, I mean, I'm not talking about your children, but a lot of young women, and I'm going to go talk about women, they aim too low. They settle. And I think that's a problem. Now, I don't know about this generation, but the last few generations I saw it many, many times where they settled and then they realized after they got married that it was a mistake, And I did that when I was young. And it's what you're saying, if they thought that way, they would discover before they got married and got in that mess.
Right. Right. Because they don't change their stripes. If they're going to bring drama when you're dating, they're going to bring drama afterwards.
But when I remarried my first husband, it had been 10 years since I saw him. And I thought, oh, well, he's changed. It's 10 years. And a leopard doesn't change its spots. Like he showed me what he was the first time, and sometimes your passion, your body, your chemical reaction, your sexual attraction of person blind you to the truth. And that is something that's extremely hard to handle, I think.
It is hard.
What do you think about that? If it's like
I do, because even the case with my children, I always say you got to lead with your head and let your heart follow. And I've been a lead with my head person. They've been a lead with their heart person. Yeah. And they didn't get it until they got in it, because I warned them.
Yeah.
And they still did it. But one thing I've learned, everybody needs their own experience to take them on a path that they're supposed to be on.
That's the truth. They have to make their own mistakes. That is absolutely the truth. And, that's the problem I have, like with my granddaughter. It's like, I could talk to her and she could seem like she gets it. And then she goes out and does what she does. And, it's like a merry-go-round. And I got off the merry-go-round. I can't be on it anymore. So she's mad at me, but that's okay. That's okay. Because that'll pass. This too shall pass. This too shall pass. But it's really tough as a parent. You're telling them advice that's tried and true and everything, and they don't listen to you. It's like, oh my God. But that's it. We're powerless over them.
We are.
And hopefully they have a higher power that's looking after them, an angel or something, right?
Right. We try to warn them, but I notice when we're trying to warn them before they do it, they have a filter that doesn't hear.
They don't want to hear. No.
No.
So I'm sure your story, especially on the podcast, resonates a lot of people that are in different stages of their relationship, like we're just talking about dating and maybe even engaged, married, ready to get out of the marriage. Do you talk about those kind of issues on
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We talk about, like, one of the podcasts is about a family that plays together. We consciously set up we get all our calendars together and set up a series of activities that we do together over the summer and the winter. Like, one of the activities we do, we go to the amusement park. And from when the children were little, I always dressed them in the same color top so I can see them. And before cell phones, Melvin and I had walkie-talkies, so I know where everybody is. So we still do that kind of color coordinate and go and hang out and do that. And then holiday time, what I do the week before Christmas, I have a big Christmas party with all the grandchildren. As soon as they come in, I got just the pajamas for everybody.
Yeah.
They put on their pajamas, and their gifts are all wrapped for them to take home. So we don't do that gift opening up stuff. You do that on Christmas at home. And we play games and take pictures and eat and play games. And then on Christmas, they can have Christmas wherever. And Melvin and I can go to the movies alone.
I love that. I love that. I do. So it's great. So how, like, your relationship with your husband, how has that evolved over the years?
I tell people that I think one of the reasons we've been married for so long, the marriage changes, I always say, about every 5 years. So every year we always do our goals for the next year, what we plan to do, but we become very different people. So we talk about how different we are. And I noticed at my 40th, that's when I changed the most.
Really?
I said, Melvin, no longer do I want to be that girl that got all the answers. I don't know nothing. And he was used to being asking me stuff, and I knew the answer. I don't want to know anymore. Sorry. And it took about 2 years for him to get used to that girl. And this other thing with this girl, you bring me flowers. Most of the time when you do something, I want flowers just because. This girl wants flowers, and it never can be too many.
Yeah. Okay, good. But I like that part about knowing all the answers and not wanting to do that. I am the answer person for my whole community. It's like, oh, call Marie. She'll know. She'll know where to go for that. She'll know what doctor. She'll know the answer to this question about your computer not working. I mean, it got ridiculous. It got ridiculous. So I had to pretend I didn't know. I
told them.
Oh no, I don't know how to do that.
I do not know.
No, because it was taking up all my time, all my free time.
And it's not, because then you carry the burden if you got to figure out a different answer. I don't know.
I would go to somebody's house. Now, a lot of these women are older because it's an over 55 community. I'd go to somebody's house to help her with her computer and show her how to use it. It wouldn't get through. And I just spend an hour of my time, So I had to start saying, oh, I don't know how to do that. I don't lie.
But I just say, I'm not that girl anymore. It took them like 2 years to really like this new girl.
I could so relate to that because I used to like having all the answers. I used to like the people would say, oh, Marie will know, call her, But then it got to be, oh my God.
Yeah. It got to be too much.
It got to be too much.
Yeah.
Even with my children and my husband, there's times where they'll ask me something and the old me would be in my mind searching for an answer. And now I just say, I don't know.
That's me.
I'm okay with saying I don't know.
Right.
Maybe I can find out the answer, but I don't know.
Right. I'm telling you, that's a big change for me.
It's a big step to take. Personal, identification of yourself. It's a big thing.
Right. And with the kids, when I was growing up, because I was in corporate America, how Power up. I was always on edge. I'm more chill now. And I noticed Melvin, as he gets older, he getting grumpy. I said, is that why they did that movie, The Grumpy Old Man? I didn't know that was the true thing. I wasn't used to that. I had to get used to, because he was never grumpy before.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think you probably overlooked a lot of things.
I probably did.
You let things slide. So when you're on the podcast, and you're sharing your story, were there ever moments where you felt too exposed or too raw, like while you were talking and maybe said, oh, I think I'm...
No, because I also teach at University of Maryland, Baltimore County. So I'm used to speaking in front of people and knowing where that wall is.
Oh, good.
And I know how to speak in code, without going too far. Now, with my daughter, I have to say, this is a subject you're going to kind of stay away from because people won't understand it. And one of the things I do say, especially on a podcast, I can't be real with some people because there's no way they would take it right unless they knew me.
Yeah. Now you're being real with me. And
right.
we knew pre-recording that we were going to be real because we could sense that connection. Yeah.
Right. Right.
But I know what you're saying. There's other people that you would not talk to the same way.
No. And when I life coach men, I'm pretty raw with them because men don't hear niceties, but it's always by ourselves, no witnesses. Melvin knows all of the guys that I coach. And I just go there in a way that nobody else could say it. So, but they need to hear it.
Are you a life coach too?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay. All right.
I call myself a boutique life coach because the first person I got, he introduced me to somebody who introduced me to somebody who introduced me to somebody. And I won't take anybody who doesn't know somebody that's been through me because it's rough. And most people don't want to do the work. I don't have time for that. If you don't want to do the work, don't waste my time.
Oh, yeah. I was like that when I was an AA sponsor. Same thing. Women come to me and I would say, here's how I sponsor. I give you homework.
Yes, that me too.
Written homework, and you have to do it. And then I got to the point where I had like 6 sponsees. I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. Once a week, you're all going to come to my house. And you're all going to go over your homework in front of everybody. And you're all going to be on different steps. And that's okay. And I had some success stories.
Yeah, me too.
Some I did not. But they knew I wasn't playing.
Right.
You got to do homework.
You got to do homework. And even at this point, when they bring somebody to me, before I even give them the agreement, assess a cost, I give them homework. Most people won't come back. I don't care. It's no skin off. If they do their homework, everybody around them will see the change in them. Mm-hmm. That's my gratification. And I always tell people, don't tell them you have a life coach. Let people ask you, why are you thinking different? And that's when you tell them.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. And if they don't do that initial homework and don't come back, then they're not ready to do the work. It's obvious, Right. So 4 decades with your husband.
Yep.
How would you define your love today compared to when you first met?
Well, when I first met him, it was more of a physical attraction, and he was nice and he was a gentleman. But like when I go to my class, the first thing I say, I'm seeing NaTasha Richburg, mother of 4, wife of 1, and I like my husband. Most people my age don't even like their man. And you know that's true.
Oh, I know that's true. I went backwards. We were friends first. My husband and I were friends first. And even though he was a teacher, he had a side job as a bartender. And I would go in there because I was drinking then. And I would go in that bar where he bartended. And I would tell him like about this guy and that guy that I was seeing. And he would like be giving me advice on the guys. And then he started trying to go out with me. And I'm like, no, 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 you're married. He's married.
Oh, okay.
No, no. And this went on for months. And now this is, I turned my phone off. You think it wouldn't. But anyway, finally he said, well, we could have a platonic relationship. Ain't no such thing when it's a female. So I fell for that for a little while, and we would go out to dinner every week. And then after about, I don't know, a couple months, I said to him, I can't see you anymore. And he said, why? And I said, because I'm falling for you and you're married, and I am never going to be somebody's mistress.
Right.
That is not me. Oh, he was crying and he couldn't believe it, you know. So anyway, it ended up the way it ended up. And you know, almost 40 years for us too. So, I mean, I'm not sorry. I don't feel like I was the other woman. You know, it was his decision to do.
Right.
And I set my boundaries.
Right.
You said platonic.
Right.
I have feelings now. We're no longer seeing each other.
Right. Right. And that's for me. When I met him, oh, he's so cute. But now I really like him as a person.
Exactly. Right. And I already did like him as a person. So I had a little head start. And then we just had to get that demon alcohol out of our lives.
Right.
And once that happened, we both got on a spiritual path. Like my husband meditates, and he's very mindful, and he's very spiritual.
Oh, and that's good.
That would have never happened though if he kept drinking. You see, so we you know, we fit good together. You know, we do. So you're more of a friend now than you were when you met.
Oh no, I didn't say that.
Oh no, what you said? Okay, so all right. How did it change from when?
No, it didn't change. The biggest change was the day the last kid moved out. He went from daddy to my man.
Oh.
So I live with my man, who is my best friend.
So the heat got turned up.
Oh yeah. And they called me up, Mommy, what you doing? I'm out with my man. I want to say I'm out with Daddy. They said, oh, hey, Daddy. Oh, yeah.
I got to give you one more before we run out. Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. What's like the most important transformative lesson that you've learned about resolving conflicts in a marriage when there's a conflict?
I think conflict is good, because conflict is like having a sore, and when it heals, it's stronger. So I don't run from conflict. Unlike some people, like they won't speak and they won't think. I think conflict is important, and you have to go at it head on. Melvin and I had a big conflict recently, and I'm like, most of the time we agree. But this one time he was here and he was there. And I said, we're going to agree to disagree, but you're never going to have the very happy NaTasha again till you figure out a way to come this way. And you got to figure it out. Yeah. And it is what it is. But one of the things with conflict, it just makes you stronger.
Yeah, it does.
It makes you stronger if you face it.
If you face it. I was on a couples retreat with my husband, like, when we first got sober. So that you know, that's a long time, 30 some years. And the priest that was doing the retreat said, I want you to tell yourself, if you could only have 3 arguments in your whole marriage, do you want this to be one of them? And that really struck a chord with me. So every time there was something that I thought was really big and I was going to go all out, I'd say, okay, do I want this to be one of my 3 arguments? Right? And I've only used one. In all these years, I've only used one. And I was sorry afterwards that I did.
I think conflict, my mother-in-law taught me this. She told me she knew a couple, and the lady bragged that they never argued. Never had a disagreement, never had anything. And my mother-in-law told me that's because he's got his affection somewhere else. Yeah, turned out he had a whole family somewhere
Oh my
else.
gosh.
So when he was around her, no matter what she did, he really wasn't bothered because he went home to his family and it wasn't her.
Yeah.
So with that story, I look at arguments and disagreements and conflicts as healthy.
Yes. And what I'm talking about is you want this one of the three. I mean, like all out yelling, screaming, and turning over the table, which I was capable of doing.
Oh, you did that? No, I don't.
I was anyway, but now it's like no, not big three type.
Yeah,
no,
we don't do that.
A discussion.
Right.
And you tell me how you feel, I'll tell you how I feel, and we'll either find a compromise or, like you said, agree to disagree.
But you know what I've learned about conflict? With my husband, I can't, okay, he did something right now. Mm-hmm. We can't talk about it for maybe 48 hours, depending on how egregious it is.
Okay.
And we got to talk about it early in the morning. I'm talking like 4 a.m. while he's still sleepy. If I want to come to a conclusion, there's a time. I can't talk to him in the middle of it because it's not going to resolve.
Yeah.
And I said, everybody's man can't. I know my man can't handle resolving it right when it happens. I've learned to back up. I learned to let time do its job.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, mine knows I get quiet. Like I'm never quiet. So when I'm in that house and I'm quiet, he knows he better come up with something. Well, this has been great. We're going to end on that note. And when I get done, I am going to go to that podcast with you and your daughter. And it's
called At Home with the Richburgs. At Home with the Richburgs.
I'm going to put that in the show notes. I'll put everything in the show notes. And when you come out with the one with your husband and your son, you text me, email me, let me know, because I would love to listen to that. And have you back again.
Yeah. You know, I have this concept I coined, and I'm going to talk about it with them. Okay. And it's a lovely word meant to be lovely.
Yeah.
But sometimes, in my opinion, from having male clients, they do dumb boy things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about that.
Next. Okay, we'll talk about that. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
All right, Miss NaTasha. This was wonderful. I hope you enjoyed it.
I loved it. It was really fun. Oh my goodness.
Okay, we'll do this again then.
Yeah. And you look good, girl. I gotta go home and get myself together. I feel like I'm not doing enough. Maybe I need to sleep longer.
Good. You look good. You look sleep is good though. All right, everybody. We're gonna leave you laughing here. And we had a wonderful time, and we shall take some of Miss NaTasha's advice because it's good advice. All right. Have a good one.
Okay. Thank you.